Story 1. The road home. The GPS kept recalculating the route home, but every turn led me deeper into roads that shouldn't exist. Let me tell you about the drive that should have taken 2 hours but lasted 3 days. I was coming back from my college roommate's wedding in Millbrook, a small town about 120 miles from home. Beautiful ceremony, great reception, but I'd stayed too late celebrating. By the time I hugged everyone goodbye and loaded my overnight bag into my Honda Civic, it was already past midnight. I wasn't worried. Highway 52 was a straight shot home. I'd driven it dozens of times. Put on some music, grab a coffee at the halfway point, and I'd be in my own bed by 3 a.m. Simple. The first hour went exactly as planned. Light traffic, clear roads, my playlist keeping me alert. I stopped at the Sunoco station at the halfway mark, just like always. Grabbed a large coffee and a bag of pretzels. The night clerk barely looked up from his magazine. Back on the road, everything felt normal. Until my GPS started acting up. In half a mile, turn right onto County Road 47. I glanced at the screen, confused. I knew this route by heart. There was no turn coming up. Just straight highway for another 50 miles. GPS error, I muttered and turned off the voice navigation. But then I saw it. A road sign I'd never noticed before, County Road 47 to 2 miles. That was impossible. I'd driven this highway at least 20 times. There was no County Road 47. I slowed down looking for familiar landmarks. The billboard for Murphy's Diner should be coming up on the left. The old red barn with the collapsing roof. The cell tower with the blinking red light. None of them were there. Instead, I saw dense forest on both sides of the road. Trees so thick their branches formed a canopy over the highway, blocking out the moonlight. The road itself looked different too. Older, more weathered, like it hadn't been repaved in decades. I pulled over and checked my phone. No signal. Not even one bar. Stay calm, I told myself. You probably took a wrong turn somewhere. Just backtrack to the gas station and start over. I made a U-turn and headed back the way I came. But after driving for 20 minutes, I never reached the Sunoco station. The forest just kept going, endless trees stretching in all directions. That's when I noticed the headlights in my rearview mirror. They were far back, maybe half a mile, but they'd been there since I turned around. Matching my speed exactly. When I slowed down, they slowed down. When I sped up, they sped up. I told myself it was just another late-night driver. Maybe someone else who was lost. But something about those headlights felt wrong. They were too bright, too white, and they never seemed to get closer or farther away. I decided to test it. I pulled over completely and shut off my engine. The other car stopped too. Right in the middle of the road, about a quarter mile behind me. We sat there for 5 minutes. Neither of us moving. Then I saw a figure get out of the other car. Too far away to make out details, but definitely human-shaped. They stood next to their vehicle for a moment, then started walking toward me. I didn't wait to see what they wanted. I fired up my engine and peeled out, gravel spraying behind me. In my rearview mirror, I watched the figure stop walking and return to their car. Moments later, those headlights were following me again. For the next 2 hours, I drove through that endless forest, looking for any sign of civilization. The headlights stayed with me the entire time, maintaining that same precise distance. Never closer, never farther. Around 5 a.m., I finally saw something. A road sign for Millbrook 15 miles. Millbrook, the town I just left. But that made no sense. I'd been driving away from Millbrook for hours. I followed the signs anyway. What choice did I have? 20 minutes later, I rolled into Millbrook's town square. Everything looked different in the early morning light, but it was definitely the same place. The church where the wedding had been held, the little diner where we'd had the rehearsal dinner, the motel where I'd stayed the night before. The headlights were gone. I parked in front of the diner and checked my phone. Still no signal, but the clock read 5:23 a.m. That couldn't be right. I'd left Millbrook at 12:30 a.m. and driven for hours. It should be well past sunrise. Inside the diner, the same waitress who'd served our rehearsal dinner was working the morning shift. "You're up early, Han," she said with a smile. "Coffee?" "Actually," I said, "I'm trying to get home. I think I took a wrong turn last night. Can you tell me how to get to Highway 52? She looked at me strangely. "Highway 52? Never heard of it. Are you sure that's right?" Yes. I've driven it dozens of times. It's the main route between here and Fairview." "Fairview?" She frowned. "Honey, there's no town called Fairview anywhere near here. You feeling all right?" I pulled out my phone to show her my GPS, but the screen was completely black. Dead. Even though it had been at 70% battery when I left. "Look," she said kindly, "maybe you should get some rest. There's a motel just down the street. Things might make more sense after you sleep." I didn't want to sleep. I wanted to get home. But I was exhausted and confused, and maybe she was right. Maybe I just needed to rest and start fresh. The motel clerk handed me a key to room 7, the same room I'd stayed in the night before. But when I mentioned this, he looked at me blankly. "First time staying with us," he said. "I'd remember a face like yours." In the room, I plugged in my phone and waited for it to charge. When it finally turned on, I called my mom to let her know I was okay. "Mike," she said, sounding confused. "Where are you calling from?" "Millbrook. My phone died, but I'm okay. I'll be home later today." "Millbrook? Honey, you were never in Millbrook. You said you were going to Sarah's wedding in Crestview." "No, Mom. Sarah's wedding was in Millbrook. I was just there yesterday." "Mike, I'm looking at the wedding invitation right now. It says Crestview. Are you sure you're feeling all right?" I hung up and stared at the invitation I'd saved in my phone. She was right. It clearly said Crestview. But I was definitely in Millbrook. I could see the church from my motel window. Confused and exhausted, I decided to sleep. Maybe everything would make sense when I woke up. I dreamed about driving through endless forests, always followed by those two bright headlights. When I woke up, it was dark outside. My phone said 11:47 p.m. I'd slept for 18 hours. I felt more rested but just as confused. I decided to try driving home again. Maybe in daylight, or whatever this was, I'd have better luck finding the right road. But when I got to my car, I found a note tucked under the windshield wiper. "You can't leave until you understand." The handwriting was spidery like an old person's, but the paper looked fresh. I crumpled it up and threw it in a trash can, then got in my car. This time, I was going to drive in the opposite direction. If Millbrook was some kind of trap, I'd find another way out. I drove for hours through that same endless forest. No matter which direction I chose, no matter how many turns I made, I always ended up back in Millbrook's town square. And those headlights were always behind me. On my third attempt to leave, I decided to confront whoever was following me. I pulled over on a deserted stretch of forest road and got out of my car. The other vehicle stopped about a quarter-mile back, just like before. But this time, when the figure got out and started walking toward me, I didn't run. I walked toward them. As we got closer, I could make out more details. It was an elderly man, probably in his 70s, wearing clothes that looked like they were from the 1980s. As he approached, I could see his face more clearly. It was me. 40 years older, but definitely me. "You're starting to understand," he said, his voice exactly like mine but weathered by age. "This isn't real," I said. "None of this is real." "It's as real as anything else," he replied. "You're in the between. The place people go when they're not ready to accept what's happened to them." "What's happened to me?" He gestured toward my car. "Look at it. Really look." I turned around, and for the first time, I saw what my Honda Civic actually looked like. The entire front end was crushed. The windshield was spider-webbed with cracks. There was blood on the steering wheel. "The wedding was in Crestview," he said gently. "You were driving home on Highway 52. A deer ran into the road. You swerved to avoid it." The memories came flooding back. The deer's eyes caught in my headlights. The wheel jerking in my hands. The tree coming up fast, too fast to stop. "How long?" I asked. 3 days. They found your car wrapped around an oak tree about 50 miles from Crestview. You've been in a coma ever since." I looked around at the endless forest, at the town that kept calling me back. "So what happens now?" "That's up to you," he said. "You can stay here, keep driving in circles, keep trying to get home to a life that's already over. Or you can let go." "And if I let go?" "Then you find out what comes next." I looked at my destroyed car, then at the road that stretched endlessly through the forest. 3 days of driving in circles, always followed by my own future ghost, always ending up back where I started. Will it hurt? Less than staying here forever. I took a deep breath and walked back to my car. But instead of getting in, I opened the door and left the keys on the seat. "I'm ready," I said. The forest began to fade around the edges, like an old photograph left in the sun. The road dissolved beneath my feet. The car, the headlights, the endless loop of trying to get home, all of it faded away. But here's what terrifies me about that story. I'm telling it to you now, which means one of two things. Either I survived the crash and this is all just a vivid memory of my coma dreams, or I never really let go at all. Because last night, I saw those same two bright headlights in my rearview mirror on my drive home from work. And my GPS keeps trying to route me through Millbrook. Have you ever taken a wrong turn that led you somewhere impossible? And how do you know you ever really found your way back? Story 2, the message. The voicemail was from my own number, but I was holding my phone when it was supposedly sent. 3 weeks ago, I started getting messages from myself. Not texts or emails, actual voicemails. From my own phone number. To my own phone number. Which should be impossible, but there they were in my voicemail inbox, time-stamped and everything. The first one came on a Tuesday morning while I was at work. My phone was sitting right there on my desk when it buzzed with a voicemail notification. I picked it up, expecting the usual, maybe my dentist confirming an appointment or my mom checking in. Instead, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Missed call, Mike Chinme. Voicemail, one new message. I stared at the screen for a full minute trying to make sense of it. How do you call yourself? I checked my recent calls. No outgoing call at that time. No but dial, no accidental activation. Nothing. Hands shaking slightly, I played the message. It was my voice. Definitely my voice. But I sounded wrong. Desperate. Panicked. Mike, listen to me very carefully. Don't go home today. I know this sounds crazy, but you have to trust me. Something terrible happens if you go home today. Stay at work late, go to a hotel, sleep in your car. I don't care. Just don't go home. Please. The message ended with the sound of heavy breathing, then the line went dead. I played it 3 more times, analyzing every word. It was definitely my voice, but I had no memory of making that call. And the thing about not going home, that was ridiculous. What could possibly happen at my own apartment? But something about the raw terror in my voice made me hesitate. I texted my roommate Jake. Hey, everything okay at the apartment? He responded immediately. Yeah, why? I'm at work. You okay? Just checking. Weird day. Aren't they all? See you tonight. I spent the rest of the workday trying to rationalize what had happened. Maybe it was some kind of technical glitch. Cell towers crossing signals. A prank by someone with voice modulation software. There had to be a logical explanation. By 6 p.m. I convinced myself it was just a weird fluke. I drove home like always, expecting to find everything completely normal. And it was. Jake was in the living room playing video games. The apartment looked exactly the same. Nothing out of place, no signs of danger or disturbance. You're home early, Jake said without looking away from his game. Early? It's after 6. Dude, it's barely 5 p.m. I checked my phone. He was right. 4:47 p.m. But that was impossible. I'd left work at 6. The drive home always took 30 minutes. I clearly remembered sitting at my desk until 6, watching the clock, telling myself I was being ridiculous about the voicemail. Jake, what day is it? Tuesday. Are you having a stroke? Tuesday. The same Tuesday I'd gotten the voicemail. But if it was still Tuesday and still before 5 p.m. then? My phone buzzed. Missed call, Mike Chinme. Voicemail, 1 new message. With trembling fingers I played it. My own voice again, but this time I sounded even more frantic. Okay, you didn't listen to the first message. I get it, I wouldn't have believed it either. But you're running out of time. It's 4:47 p.m. right now, and you're standing in your living room talking to Jake about what day it is. In 13 minutes, someone is going to knock on your door. Do not answer it. Jake will want to answer it. Don't let him. Lock the door, turn off the lights, and hide in the bedroom closet until morning. Trust me. I looked at Jake, who was still absorbed in his game, completely oblivious to my growing panic. 4:48 p.m. 12 minutes. Jake, I said carefully, if someone knocks on the door tonight, don't answer it. Why would someone knock? We're not expecting anyone. Just promise me. If someone knocks, we ignore it. He paused his game and looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Dude, what's wrong with you today? You're acting super weird. 4:52 p.m. 8 minutes. I went to the front door and checked the locks. Deadbolt, chain, everything secure. Then I closed all the blinds and turned off most of the lights. Seriously, Mike, you're freaking me out, Jake said. 4:58 p.m. 2 minutes. I grabbed Jake's arm and pulled him away from the TV. We need to hide. Right now. Hide from what? 5:00 p.m. 3 sharp knocks on the door. Jake and I both froze. The knocks came again, more insistent this time. See? Jake whispered. Someone's here. We should answer it. No, I hissed, remembering the voicemail. We don't answer it. The knocking continued for several minutes, then stopped. We waited in silence for another hour before I felt safe enough to check the peephole. The hallway was empty. Okay, Jake said. What the hell was that about? How did you know someone was going to knock? I didn't know how to explain without sounding insane, so I just said, lucky guess. But the voicemails didn't stop. Every Tuesday at exactly the same time, I'd get another message from myself. Each one more specific, more urgent than the last. Week 2. The man at the door is wearing a UPS uniform, but he's not really from UPS. Check the tracking number he gives you. It doesn't exist. Don't sign for any package. Week 3. Jake is going to suggest ordering pizza from Mario's tonight. The delivery driver isn't really a delivery driver. His name is Marcus Webb, and he's been watching our building for 3 weeks. Don't order pizza. Don't answer the door. Don't trust anyone who comes to apartment 4B tonight. Week 4. I need you to listen very carefully because this is the last message I'll be able to leave. Next Tuesday at 5:23 p.m., your phone is going to ring. It'll be a number you don't recognize, but you'll answer it anyway because you're curious about who's calling. Don't answer that call. As soon as you hear the phone ring, throw it in the sink and run water over it. Destroy it completely. If you answer that call, everything ends. By the 4th week, I was a nervous wreck. I'd started researching temporal paradoxes, voice cloning technology, elaborate pranks, anything that might explain how I was receiving messages from myself. But the details were always too accurate. The UPS imposter had indeed shown up with a fake tracking number. Jake had suggested Mario's Pizza at exactly the predicted time, and when I looked out the window, I saw a delivery car parked across the street with someone sitting inside, watching our building. The messages were protecting me from something. But what? And how was my future self able to communicate with me? Tuesday came again. 5:20 p.m. I was ready. My phone was in my hand and the kitchen sink was running. The moment it rang, I was going to destroy it just like my future self had instructed. 5:21 p.m. 5:22 p.m. 5:23 p.m. The phone rang. Unknown number, just like predicted. I held the phone over the running water, ready to drop it in. But then I hesitated. What if this was all some elaborate delusion? What if I was having a mental breakdown and these voicemails were hallucinations? What if I destroyed my phone and missed an important call from work or family or a doctor? The phone kept ringing. Against every instinct, against the desperate warnings from my future self, I answered it. Hello, Mike. The voice was familiar, but I couldn't place it immediately. Yes. This is Dr. Sarah Martinez from Millbrook General Hospital. I'm calling about your accident. What accident? I haven't been in any accident. Mike, you were in a serious car crash 3 weeks ago. You've been in a coma ever since. We've been trying to reach your emergency contacts, but your phone has been going straight to voicemail. The room started spinning. That's impossible. I'm standing in my apartment. I've been getting ready for work every day. Mike, listen to my voice. You need to wake up. Your family is here. Everyone's been so worried. No, this isn't real. The voicemails warned me about this call. You're not a doctor. You're Marcus Webb, or whoever's been trying to get into my apartment. Mike, there is no apartment. There is no Jake. You've been unconscious for 3 weeks. The voicemails you think you've been receiving, those are fragments of memory from when you were conscious. Your brain is trying to process the trauma, but you need to wake up now. I looked around my apartment. Jake was still there playing his video game. Everything looked normal, solid, real. Prove it, I said. If I'm really in a coma, prove it. Look at your hands, Mike. I looked down. My hands were pale, almost translucent, and they were connected to 4 tubes that I somehow hadn't noticed before. Look at the windows. I walked to the window and pulled back the blinds. Instead of the street view I expected, there was nothing. Pure white emptiness, like looking into fog. The voicemails from yourself. Those were your subconscious trying to keep you safe in the dream world you'd created. But you can't stay here forever. Your body is failing, Mike. You need to choose to wake up. I sank into a chair, my mind reeling. But the apartment feels so real. Jake feels real. I know. That's how comas work sometimes. Your brain creates a complete alternate reality to protect itself from trauma. But you've been sending yourself those warning messages because part of you knows it's not real. Part of you has been trying to wake up for weeks. I looked at Jake again. He hadn't moved, hadn't blinked. The video game screen showed the same frozen frame it had shown for the past 4 weeks. How do I wake up? You just choose to. Let go of the apartment, let go of the routine, let go of the fear. Come back to us. The apartment began to fade around the edges, just like in my dreams about the endless forest. The walls became transparent, the furniture dissolved. Jake flickered like a bad TV signal and vanished. That's it, Mike. Come back. Your family is waiting. Everything went white. When I opened my eyes, I was in a hospital bed. My mom was sitting in a chair next to me, tears streaming down her face. Mike? Oh my God, Mike, can you hear me? I tried to speak, but my throat was raw from the breathing tube they just removed. The voicemails, I croaked. What, honey? I was getting voicemails from myself. Warning messages. The doctor, Dr. Martinez, the same voice from the phone, smiled. That's not unusual for coma patients. Your brain was trying to process the trauma and find a way back to consciousness. In a way, you were leaving yourself messages. Messages to wake up. I spent 2 weeks in the hospital recovering. The car accident had been severe. I'd been driving home from work when another driver ran a red light and T-boned my car. I'd been unconscious for 3 weeks, lost in a dream world that felt completely real. But here's the part that still gives me nightmares. When they gave me back my personal belongings, I found my phone. It had been destroyed in the crash, completely unrepairable. Yet when the technician tried to retrieve data from the damaged memory card, he found something impossible. 4 voicemails. All from my own number. All time-stamped during the weeks I was in a coma. All in my own voice, warning me about things that never happened in a place that never existed. The technician said it was probably corrupted data, fragments that looked like messages but weren't really there. But I listened to them, and they were exactly the messages I remembered from the dream. Which means either my coma dream was more real than anyone wants to admit, or I'm still asleep, and this recovery is just another layer of the dream. Last night my phone rang. Unknown number. I didn't answer it. But this morning I had a new voicemail. From myself. Mike, if you're hearing this, then you made the right choice. But you're not out of danger yet. The hospital discharge papers they're giving you today, don't sign them. The address they have for your home recovery isn't your real address. If you go to that apartment, you'll never wake up again. So tell me, if you were getting messages from yourself, would you trust them? And how would you know if you ever really woke up? The truth about evil. Those were 4 stories about ordinary people in ordinary places who discovered that reality isn't as solid as we pretend it is. A night shift worker trapped by routine. A neighbor who refuses to let go. A driver who can't find his way home. A man who might still be dreaming. But here's what connects all these stories, what makes them truly terrifying. None of these people thought they were in danger. They all felt safe in their normal lives, their normal routines, their normal assumptions about how the world works. Evil doesn't announce itself with dramatic music and dark shadows. It doesn't wear a mask or carry a weapon. Evil hides in the familiar. In the helpful neighbor who bakes cookies. In the routine that becomes a prison. In the voice that sounds exactly like your own. The most frightening monsters are the ones that look like ordinary people, ordinary situations, ordinary choices. Because when everything looks normal, how do you know when you're already trapped? The gas station clerk who just wants to help lost souls find peace. The grandmother who just wants to take care of her children. The voice on the phone who just wants to keep you safe. They all believe they're doing good. They all believe they're helping. And maybe that's the most terrifying thing of all. Evil doesn't always know it's evil.